Hi everyone and welcome to the stream. I'm Remy and today we're gonna talk a little bit about sewers. And we also have your favorite little companion here. He's gonna help me do some mapping. Guess he can just do all the mapping. Why should I do anything? You love watching cats, don't you? I guess so. But he doesn't like being held. Okay, let's get this show on the road. You all know the software, I hope. If not, if you're new here, you're welcome to the stream, obviously. And hope you will enjoy it. So, today I promised I'll make you some sewers. So, let's just jump right into it and start a new map. And let's go to floor plans actually. And I'm gonna base the sewers on the modern bitmap A. Those of you who looked at the thumbnail probably saw that already, that the style. And let's dive into, actually I think I'm going to make a metric map this time. So I'm thinking of just making a small little sewer encounter, something that can be used as a battle map, or just an interesting location for the characters to explore. So just a small little section of the sewer. So I'm gonna make it 40 by 30 meters. And actually, I think I'm not gonna need a map background. And let's find a nice folder to put it in. Encounters. Sorry. Yeah. Just sorry about my throat is a little bit so. So for this map, I'm starting mostly with a blank map. This is because I'm going to draw all the terrain, all the coverings anyway, so I don't need any background. It's often a problem when you're using a background that we get things like transparency, acne effects and things like that. So by not having anything below it all, it should make it a little bit simpler. And again, as I'm going to cover it all up, it isn't useful anyway. So I get a question here from Versus. When making battle maps, do you keep your map close to the grid or don't you bother and just add the grid afterwards? Well, it really depends a lot what kind of map I'm using. Sometimes I do keep it close to the grid, but most of the time I feel it's more natural not making it to the grid. But it's more difficult to actually play on the map if it doesn't stick to the grid. So well, it depends a little bit what you want to do, but if I'm making an outdoor map especially, I try not to be too much to the grid. For an indoor map, yeah, it kind of depends. I know maybe not the question, the answer you want kind of depends. It's kind of non-committal, but that's really the truth when I design. I look a little bit on each type of map what I want to and how important the movement of the miniature is on the map. But I often make map with a lot of walls at an angles, cave walls, and all kind of things like that, and those just look weird if you try to force them to the grid. So, okay, let's dive into this one. Since this is based on a modern template, I'm going to actually be a little bit gridish about it, because most lines are kind of straight and have set distances. So I'm going to right click my grid button, and I'm gonna set up, actually I'm going to use a 1 meter grid for this one. Don't snap, and yeah, I can leave the grid lines for now, but the grid markers, but I always find these grid dots a little bit annoying, but at the beginning of the map they can be helpful to get things into proper place. Okay, so if I'm drawing a sewer, so I'm thinking there are two main things I need to make this feel like a sewer. That's the water or sludge or whatever we have running in the sewer, and it's the walkways on the side where the character can actually walk. So let us start by adding some nice walkways. The first thing I always do is try to identify which kind of fill do I need for this. And I can look at the drawing tools, of course, and you can see we have a lot of drawing tools for different things. But the tools only contains the fills that are already been defined. They already have been set up as a tool for the map. Let's instead have a look at the fill styles. Here we go. I like walking on bricks. Doesn't these bricks look like something nice for a walkway? I think they do. So I'm going to use this one. So I'm kind of notorious for actually not using the existing tools, because I so often want to do something that's not set in a tool. I find using the basic tools here on the right hand just as helpful and just as quick for a lot of the tasks. I mean, the drawing tools, for more specialized tasks, these are extremely nice, especially if you want things like fractalized terrains and you want to edit existing polygons and things like this. For that, they are absolutely great. But just for drawing basic shapes, I find I'm doing it just as quickly. But that means I also have to make sure I set my settings correctly. The floor sheet seems fine. And the background layer, yeah, that's for the floors anyway, so that's fine. And just grab a polygon tool and start drawing a little bit. Now, this grid is a 1 meter, so I don't want the walkways to be too wide either. That's kind of weird. But I think I'm going to make them about, let's do them 4 meters. Often they are probably smaller, but the 4 meters allows me to more easily place characters, place miniatures, and have some room to work with. So I'm drawing my shape. There we go, some nice bricks. Based on the size, maybe the bricks are a little bit large, but sometimes I prefer the texture to maybe be a little bit larger than normal, because it just looks better. When if they get too small, it just looks like a mess anyway, so I prefer to have them a bit bigger. So there then we have a bit of a sewer, and I'm going to just start drawing the other side. Oops. So again, I have a walkway. And you can probably see what I'm going for here. I want a little canal coming in from the side. And great. I already have a lot of my layout here already. So let's just swell a little bit into this part perhaps, and let's start thinking about what do I want to use for the water. Well, let's see again. Let's have a look at the drawing tools again. One of the advantages to the drawing tool window is that they have nice large previews. So sometimes I just look at what I have here, and then I go back to the dialogue, fill style dialogue afterwards. And let's just scroll down and see what we can find. Well, I have my water, but this water is kind of too nice blue. And I see in the chat that Steven wants sludge. Well, we have a nice sludge texture here. Now, of course, the problem here is that this is meant to draw some kind of puddle, not a straight stream. So this tool is not good for what I'm doing. It has the right fill, but it's not exactly what I need. I need a straight tool. Now I basically have two options. I can actually just go back and do the same thing as I did when I made the walkways, but let's just make a straight tool for the water sludge so we can see a little bit drawing tool creation as well. So I go to advanced, I find my water sludge, and I don't want to overwrite the current tool. I do want some a new tool for this. So I'm just, after selecting it, hitting new, and I can make water sludge square. Not exactly square, but you get a point. It's still a part polygon, but I want a straight. There we go. This is what I want. I just hit save to make sure that's saved, and I now have a new tool. I still have my original water sludge tool, but I also have now my square tool. Okay, and let's just draw it in. Snap is helping me a lot here to make sure it's actually ending up on the correct spots. That's why I set the 1 meter snap grid. Versus asks, is there a better way to organize the tools? Find them overwhelming because there's so many. Well, the problem with many tools is when I have a tendency to hit the all tools button. But remember, if you use individual buttons, like for example the default water, if I right click the default water, it only brings up the water tools. Same happens if I right click the terrain, it only shows the terrain tools. So the tools are really grouped by the first word here, or as much as the beginning as you really want to. But you can see there is a filter up here, terrain. I can just filter on whatever I want to do. Water. Fine now. And I only have the water tools. So this is basically how you organize the tools. Make sure that the first word has a useful name, and if you want something that's not on one of those buttons, then you can always, if you have something you are used to using, then just go to all tools and just do it like this, and you get the results. And I now searched for walls because I'm going to place some brick walls. I think 1 meter thick brick walls is probably a bit too thick for a sewer room. 1 meter is actually quite a lot, but then again it's going to support heavy buildings on top, so maybe a meter is fine. So I'm just gonna draw a little bit of walls along the edges. Remember, this is a line that is 1 meter wide. So since I'm drawing the line against the edge of my walkway here, it's going to steal basically half a meter of my walkway because the line extends in both directions from the center. So that's our basic sewer shape. I'm gonna do something about these 2 rooms a little bit later, but for now I'm just going to leave them and I'm going to turn on my effects. Okay, there we go. This is the default effect setup, and so far it does work. But I'm not too pleased about these wall shadows. Part of the reason is that these wall shadows are really intended to feel like you have a light source up here that goes down, often an overhead sun or something like that. And well, we are in a sewer, aren't we? So I think it's much better to actually switch to the lighted dungeons. So how do we do that? Well, first of all, I'm going to go to my global sun setting, and I don't want it to be completely black once I turn them on. So I'm gonna put a transparency, say of 25%. I'm going to go back and tweak this value. I'm just gonna start at 25 and just a tiny bit of blur. This didn't appear to do anything. That's because I haven't enabled shadows yet. And let's go into effects. And what I'm going to do is that I'm gonna turn off all existing shadows. I don't want these. But I'm going to start on symbols, and I'm going to add something called the wall shadow point light setup. The point light shadows allows me to define light sources and have shadow be cast where the light sources are blocked. So symbols should cast, well, approximately 2 meter shadows. We can tweak this later. But the walls should obviously block. Sorry, it was the wrong button. Setup. Walls should totally block the light with an infinite range. And when we add point lights, we also need to add the finalize on the last sheet we're using lighting effects on. So yeah, we can keep black shadows for now. That's fine. When I hit OK now, my map is going to get very dark. And that's because I haven't defined any light sources at all for this map yet. So let's just see, how can I define a light source? I think I'm just, before I do that, going to go back to global sun and make it more transparent. This is so it will be more visible on YouTube and it's not quite so dark. I'm going to go back and change it afterwards. So I'm going to add some lights. Let's start here. And first of all, I want a symbol to indicate there is a light here. The light symbol in itself does not do anything to cast light. Well, that is, you can have symbols with built-in lighting effect, but this is not one of them. But I'm going to just grab the varicolor one because I like purple lights. It's very small. I don't like the size. I think I'm going to increase the size a little bit. Let's just put it at 1. Yeah, this is a nice big lamp. And I'm going to turn off snap because it keeps snapping to the center of the wall there. That's not what I want. Yeah. And it's not defined with an offset. So I'm going to manually just place it up against the wall where I want it. Like that. So this is just a symbol. That doesn't do anything, of course. But what I can do now is that I can add dungeon lights. If I go to DD3, they're already in the dungeon menu. I could just have typed the add light command manually, but it's just as easy to just pick it from the dungeon menu. So I'm gonna place my light where my symbol is. Give it good range. Right click to make it 360 degrees. And I'm just going to click OK, redraw, and see how this looks. Now it's time to go to the global sun and make the map a little bit darker again so we can actually see the effect of the light. Okay, as you can see, it's way too dark. I can't have the light this dark. So how can we edit the light? Well, you can see that the light is right here. It's a little cross symbol. It can be difficult to see because it's kind of small and it's hiding behind the lamp there, but you can see it right here. So just use the edit on the light, and I'm gonna bump the radius to 25 and the intensity to 150. That's too much. That's way too much. Okay, let's try 100 and go to 20. This thing often needs a little bit of tweaking and testing to get it right the way you want it to be. But I think this is kind of looking, yeah. Let's try this one. So I'm just going to place a couple of more lamps. One here. And we can actually place one on downside here, and we can have one lamp up here. So I'm just again going to add some more lights. Take the same values. Notice that where I'm clicking doesn't matter too much when I'm just typing in new values into the box immediately afterwards anyway. Now you can see the effect of lights. If you see here that I chose 100, but once I add more lights to the scene, they actually combine, and that's quite natural. That's what happens normally in the real life as well. If you have more than one light in a place, it gets brighter. So, as we can see, 100 is actually maybe too much. So, let's actually try going back to 50. Or maybe I want one bright light. I want one bright light near the center. And I'm gonna take the other lights and try to go to 50. And 50. Yeah. There we go. It's a little bit better. And maybe I'm just going to go to global sun and lower the transparency of the shadows a little bit as well. Now we are starting to getting somewhere. Some nice lighted dungeon. But it's probably a little bit dark to keep it this way for you on YouTube. So I'm going to go back to the global sun and bump this back up to 30 while I'm working on it. This is brighter than I really wanted, but I think you'll see things better. So let me go down to the bottom corridor here. Okay, so this is actually the basic sewers are already in place, but we do need to change things up a little bit. For example, one of the things I'm not too happy with is this sludge. It's not looking flowing enough in my mind. I want to combine it a little bit with some water. So let's do something. I'm gonna add a sheet called water, and I'm gonna put it right here. The sludge is on the outside sheet. I know that from previously. I guess I can just check and show you how to check that, and then I'll be sure as well. Just go to info list. I pick the edge. Notice that when I try to pick the edge near the map edge, I often get additional entities like the screen and the map border. So I want to deselect them. So what I usually do is just I hold down the control key and make just a window selection away from the entity I really wanted to select. Control means to deselect stuff. So now I have one entity selected here, one picked. And when I do it, I can clearly see that the polygon here is on the outside sheet, as I wanted. Okay, fine. Let's activate the water sheet. It's already active. It's not a wall features. It should be... water is part of the background, but I think we can just put it on the outside layer. And let's just find a nice water texture. Some green water, yeah, some greenish water. And I'm just going to draw myself a new polygon. I could just copy the sludge polygon and change the fill of the copy, but drawing a new polygon is kind of just as quick. Okay, now we have some water, but where did my sludge go? Well, I covered it in water, so it's completely gone, obviously. Let's fix that. Getting to my water sheet, and I'm going to add an effect. I'm going to add now my mind stops working. Blend mode I want to add, and we're going to combine it. Blend mode specify how something is combined with what's below. So I can, for example, say that the water should multiply with a 25% opacity on the sludge below. Okay, now I also see that this is also too dark for you to see what I'm doing. So I'm gonna temporarily go to the global sun and turn off lighting again, so we can see a little bit more what's actually happening. Let's go back into the sheet dialog. So I can see that, yeah, it's kind of blended way too much into here. Let's try bouncing this one. Yeah, now we are kind of getting somewhere. You can see that the water is actually blending in with the sludge below. So you get a little bit. I felt that the existing sludge felt more like hardened concrete with mushrooms growing on it. This gives it a little bit more of a watery flavor. So yeah, I think this looks good. You can see now see the sludge clearly, but nice blended with the water and the sludge. Nice. Then we can turn back on global lighting, activate lighting, and there we are. Gold. Now we're starting to getting somewhere here. Okay. One thing you might be annoyed at immediately is these crosses indicating where the light symbols are. So let me just go to Dungeon, Lights, Hide Light Symbols, and these hide automatically. But the problem is that these show by default whenever you load the map. So let's fix that. If you looked at the command, now I replaced it with save, but the command was light hide. That hides the light. Let's make the map do that whenever we load the map. Click the map nodes. We click the unopen macro, which is the macro which is running each time the map is loaded. And at the bottom here, I'm just gonna add light hide and hit enter exactly once. So I see a comment in the chat, the same blend modes Photoshop used. Yeah, blend mode is something a lot of software uses. So if you search for blend modes on the net, you get general help on blend modes. It's nothing specific to Camping Cartographer at all. So there we go. Now the next thing I want to do is I need some way for people to cross. We can't have a sewer where people can't actually cross over. Well, you can have them jump over. Yeah, I guess it's kind of fun if people have to jump over and they have to roll a dexterity test and sorry, you fail, you just fell into the sludge. Glee. Well, that works, it's fun, but I still think I'm going to draw some kind of bridge as well. So let's zoom into the little crossroads here. And now there are a couple of textures I could use to draw the bridge. For example, the metal flooring here is actually an okay texture to do things like that. But I'm gonna grab some additional textures. I know that there are some nice textures in among things like Cosmographer and things like that works quite nice. So let's show you how to import some additional textures. I'm going to go to Tools, import bitmap file styles. I'm gonna browse. And it should normally dump me right in my CC3 Plus data directory. And inside of bitmaps, tiles, I find all my files. I think there are some nice one in the Storyweaver High Space. This is from an annual, so you might not have it. Let's see what we have in here. See, just now search results a little bit. Only displaying the highest quality textures. Here's at least a very nice damaged concrete. I like this one. Not for the bridges, but for other uses. And these are the ones I was looking for. These make great bridges. You know, the kind of things you find over water with holes in, so water and sludge won't collect on the bridge. Yeah, I want these. So I'm just going to select one of them, open. And you can see that it should fill in the part. And since this was from inside the Campaign Cartographer directory, the relative to CC3 part is the best one. Notice that since these are existing bitmaps, we should not check create other resolutions. These are already prepared for use in CC3. I'm just importing them to my map. If there were new ones, I would need this, and I'm going to show this in a minute actually, but not for these ones. But I want to scale them, and let's try scaling them by 5. If they are not scaled, then they will have the same size on screen no matter how you zoom, which means that they will look larger or smaller compared to the thing next to them. We always want scale to be checked. Okay, that's a lot of fills. Let me find it. Subdac to bitmap. Okay. And it should probably go on, yeah, I'm thinking I don't want it on the floors. I'm just gonna draw it on the symbols flat sheet for now. Maybe they look horrible there. We'll just have to see. So I'm just going to, but now my snaps are perhaps a little bit large. Yeah, or maybe not. Maybe I just want it to actually go like this. There we go. Not too bad, but I think the texture is a bit large. So I'm gonna change the scaling. Let's try 2 meters instead of 10 meters. Yeah, that makes sense. Is this one okay? I think I'm just gonna leave this one. I could try to tweak a little bit with effects and things like that, but I'm just gonna leave it like that. Of course, if I want a little bit more of more medieval stuff, I can just go to open a symbol catalog. Let's try the Campaign Cartographer, sorry, the dungeon, DD3. And I'm gonna, let's see, I think, is it up and down? No. Let's see. You just have to remember which catalog the bridges are in, which I don't. There we go. So if we want a bit more riktig bridge, I can of course do something like this. A bit more perilous, but maybe it doesn't fit quite as well in a modern dungeon. But then again, maybe it does fit perfectly as well. Maybe this is a dungeon in some a little bit more rundown area, maybe post-apocalyptic, and people have just started modifying the sewer and dropping things down. I'm gonna just drop in a little bit of trash as well. I'm imagining that under this bridge there is some kind of grating to prevent things from going through. So I'm just gonna throw down a little bit of of stuff under here. Maybe there are some old bikes that people have thrown into the sewer. An old trash can. And yeah, we can always throw in a little bit of litter running under here. All of this is kind of stopped by that imaginary grating I have below here. Of course, now it's all above that walkway. So let me just select all of it. I'm gonna put it on the symbols flat sheet. That's the same sheet as that walkway happens to be on. And then I'm just gonna move the walkway to the top. Do it. And let's see, wasn't that? Everything should be. Am I being fooled by the lay-drawn symbols right now? Yes, I am. Sometimes, because the way effects are rendered in Campaign Cartographer 3+, it redraws the symbols at the end of each sheet pass. I'm not going to go too deep into the technical details, but you saw the command I was typing, delay draw sim, which is still visible here. This turns off that behavior if I set that to 0, and I get the symbols to appear below. Of course, the other fix I could have done is that instead of keeping this bridge on the symbols flat, maybe I should just have done this instead. Bridges. Okay, I can put glow on symbols flat, and I just move these to the bridge sheet instead, and I get rid of the problem that way. That's probably a better way to actually get rid of the problem rather than messing with the lay drawn symbols. Now you can see here, it's a little bit in the dark. That's the point. Should we maybe do it a little bit lighter? Yeah. There we go. So I'm starting to get something, but now, of course, we have to plan a little bit. What could be in that sewer? We have to add some fun things. I mean, we can't have a sewer without some fun things in it. So let's first of all, I want to do. I'm just gonna turn this back on since I fixed it, because I'm gonna use some symbol, which this can cause some problems. So I now want to add a little bit. Okay, what can we add? Well, a lot of fun things. For example, if I go to symbols and dungeons and creepy crypts, I have some nice creatures. Sewer is full of nice creatures. Ooh, we have rats. Who does not love a nice little rat? Ooh, I love rats. Let's just make sure that we have normal size for these rats. Or actually, who cares about small rats when you can have large rats? Nice large rats. Lovely. absolutely lovely. We can have rats. Can you see I'm happy? I have rats. Is it wrong to be happy if you have rats? And let's just throw in a little bit of a snake too. There are snakes in these zoos. Now it's starting to get a little bit dangerous. But of course, we want it not just a little bit dangerous, but we want it real dangerous. And for that, I have a nice little extra bonus. Because we have a nice little artist in our community who made me a little bit, or made us, some nice tentacles. Who does not love tentacles? And tentacles and rats in the same sewer? Ooh, this is going to be so much fun. So I'm going to take this opportunity to also show you how to add new symbols to your campaign cartographer. You can see here on my screen, I just have now the raw image files. These have not been prepared for symbols. These are just PNG files. Could have been downloaded from the internet or whatever. But I'm now going to add them to Campaign Cartographer. So, first of all, let me place them in a sensible location. Right now, they are in my download directory. Campaign Cartographer always references the images on map, on disk. So it's important that before starting using images, they should be placed in their final location. Do not use images from your download directory in maps. You are going to regret it if you ever change your PC or change things up. So I'm gonna start by just taking all these images and copy them to my clipboard. So I have them on my clipboard. Now I'm gonna put them inside the Campaign Cartographer data directory, and I find the easiest way to do that is to just on the command line of Campaign Cartographer type opendoc space and then the @ enter. This opens the data directory right up. If not, I can just of course use Windows Explorer to just browse to the path. This is where they are by default. But keep in mind that the program data folder is hidden by default. So you have to show hidden files to actually find program data. I know some people try to look for this, they got the system, and since program data is hidden, they start looking in program files. They're just thinking, oh, it might be a little bit something that's wrong or something like that, and they probably meant program files, but no, when we say program data, we mean program data and not program files. And now my cat is not dying of starvation. His food bowl is right there on my desk, and he has plenty of food. But let's go into program data, Pro Fantasy, back to the same place we were. And inside this folder, there is a folder called symbols. This is where all Campaign Cartographer symbols should be. Symbol. And inside of here is a folder called user. This is intended to put your own symbols in. Like symbols you've gotten from the internet or whatever, symbols that are not installed by the official installers. Inside this symbols catalog, you should have some bit of organizing it. You shouldn't just leave it unorganized and just dump everything. You're gonna regret that later. So I'm gonna make a new folder, if I can see through my cat, and I'm gonna call it Zoo, because these are Zoo's tentacles. And then I'm gonna make a folder for the actual image, because I might have different things from Zoo, so I'm not just gonna dump everything. I want a new folder, so I can call that tentacles. and I'm gonna paste my image file. So you can see here I'm making a nice little structure here under user, the artist, and this particular set of symbols. Okay, now I can go back to Campaign Cartographer and I'm gonna prepare to import these. But I don't want to import them into the current map. I want to make a symbol catalog. So I'm just going to start a new instance of Campaign Cartographer 3+, temporary. I can have many copies open. And I'm gonna make a new symbol catalog. And I want a blank dungeon catalog. Size doesn't matter, just create it. And I'm gonna save it in the same location I saved my tentacles. In symbols, user su. But the common way of storing the symbol catalog is not inside the folder with images, but right outside, but with the same name as the cat symbol. So I call it tentacles. And symbol catalogs have the extension FSC, Fosket symbol catalog, and save. Now I can go to symbols, import PNGs. This is how we import symbols. I'm gonna browse, very similar to what I did when I imported the bitmaps, the fills, and I go to open, and we can see it nicely refers to this. This @ sign means that it's inside the Campaign Cartographer data directory. You'll always want to have your things inside of that directory, and you want to see that @ sign at the beginning. If it doesn't, if it says something like C program data / pro fantasy / cc3+ / symbols, then you want to look into it. You want that @ sign. You can see here if I do, it doesn't change it automatically, but yeah, we want it there. Dungeon symbols should be 100 pixels per drawing unit. I'm not 100% sure if these are already properly sized by Sue, but I'm just gonna put them to 100 to go for. I'm gonna grab them by the center. And this time I do want to create other resolutions, because in Campaign Cartographer we have 4 different versions of each image with different resolutions depending on the zoom level. This improves performance a lot, but these raw images are not set up that way. But Campaign Cartographer can do that for us. So I'm just gonna tell them, yeah, I want you to create these for me. Create other resolutions. I can add some symbol settings. I mean, we want all symbols to go to the symbols sheet, and these should be in a collection, because then I can have randomly selected tentacles from the collection. I can even set up some nice little random transformations as well. I can rotate the full range. They can be between 0.8 and 1.2 of the size. We get a little bit variation, and we can probably mirror them as well. Okay, and to get the symbol information added, I have to do a full rebuild, not just an update. So I just do a rebuild, and I hit OK. Now you can see it working down here. It will take a few seconds, and now there we have 9 symbols has been processed. If I now look into my folder, you can see that Campaign Cartographer has already now created these high, low, very high, and very low version of each file. These are the 4 versions we are going to need. And we have the symbol catalog with them. Okay, nice. We save the symbol catalog, and I think that's all we need. One thing I might like to do, I don't have the time to do it for all of them right here on stream, but I like to go to symbols, symbol manager, I'm gonna pick them each in turn, go to edit, and I'm gonna do an edit. Now, sorry, a view, move origin, and I'm going to place the origin at the middle of the bottom of the tentacle. This origin is the placement point of the symbol. And by changing every tentacle, I'm ensuring that I'm always placing them basically using the exact same center. As I said, I can't go through all of them right now. At least that's boring to look at. But I've done 2 of them. The rest would be the exact same way, just edit them one by one. So I'm gonna save the symbol catalog and close the window. Now, from my map here, now I can always use open symbol catalog. I can find the user and Sue and tentacles. I can just load it like that. But I like to assign things to work with my buttons. For example, Dungeon Designer has this skirmish button, which can load different skirmish catalogs. I think the tentacles work very fine in here. So I'm going to show you how to just make sure that it also becomes a choice here in this button. So all I have to do is to click the symbol catalog settings button, this one. And I'm going to advanced. And what I'm going to do now is that I'm going to define a new catalog setting. I'm gonna first pick one that is similar to what I'm going to do. The color skirmish is fine. I'm gonna do a new one based on that one and call it DD3 color tentacles. The first part of the name is actually part of the search filter. This is why I'm leaving it as DD3 color right now, even though this isn't exactly a DD3 thing, but this will make it match the existing search folder. If I just call it Sue's tentacles here, then the search for DD3 stuff wouldn't find it. That's why I'm leaving it as DD3 color. Okay. I now have this one, and you see here, it's defined a symbol catalog file. Let's browse for the one I defined. User Sue tentacles. And we can also, if we want, say that it should use a specific layer. For example, I want it to be on the people layer. Tentacles are people too, right? So I'm gonna do that. And I'm just gonna save it. And again, this naming is very important. What I've basically done is that I have connected this symbol catalog up against that name. So now, if I click color skirmish, I either did something wrong, or let's see, because I don't see it. Yeah, of course. It's the thing I just said. I said that it was looking for specific things, so DD3 color tentacles is of course not enough. I need to call it DD3 color skirmish tentacles. Notice that to rename it, I just create a new one that I call DD3 skirmish tentacles, and then I can just delete the old tentacles, and I have skirmish tentacles right here. Now it should work. Click the skirmish button, and voila, there we have trees. Now we have tentacles. So this is how you connect a symbol catalog to a button for a specific type of map. I have now kind of connected it to the DD3 type of map, since that's what I did. I can of course also connect it to the modern map. I was after all making this an SS3 map. I'm not quite sure which category tentacles should be in. Maybe in vehicles? Yeah, I guess tentacles are vehicles, right? So I can do the same here. I go in. Now I'm in symbol set 3. And I pick up the vehicles first. I create a new one based on that one, which I call vehicles tentacles. Okay. I browse for my tentacles. I save and I hit OK. And now I have regular vehicles and the tentacles. I think I actually accidentally broke the catalog settings for basic vehicles, but I now have at least the tentacles. Let's go back in and fix that one. I hate having unfixed ones. I think I accidentally blanked out the symbol catalog file for vehicles. So that should be symbols, modern, floor plans, bitmap A, vehicles, save, go. There we go. Now I have vehicle tentacles and regular vehicles. Golden. Okay, let's just place them in the map. We are nearing the end of our session here now, but we can't leave without actually putting in some of these nice tentacles. So grab a tentacle. It should go to the symbol sheet automatically because I set that setting. This is a very small tentacle, I think. Yeah, it's probably fine. Now I did set up random from the catalog, so if I collapse it, now it should start picking randoms. This is absolutely lovely. Who do not love visiting this tentacled dungeon? Or who wouldn't love GMing this dungeon and having your players walk down along those and suddenly out of that dirty, sludgy water you just suddenly have a bunch of tentacles rising up, spraying water on the unfortunate characters and grabbing them with your tentacles and just trying to drag them into the water while the rest of the characters scramble to try to rescue their friend. Or more likely, like players usually do, I hit it with my sword and I wait until they're dead, and then I go see if my friend who was dragged under still lives. My experience anyway. So I think we maybe should just call it an end there. I didn't get to actually explore my additional rooms here, so there's room for some interesting more thing happening in this sewer. But I think we covered a lot of the interesting things. We draw the walkways, we draw the bridges, we drew the monsters, we set up lighting, and I can now change the lighting if I want to. So I can make it a little bit darker again. And of course, if you don't like the purple lighting, let's go to let's show light symbols again, and let's just use edit and change this one to, if you prefer some other kind of lighting, yellow lighting for example. Okay, and we have nice yellow lighting the scene instead. So you can do a lot of nice things with these lighting effects. Oh, it actually looked too much transparency. 10%? Yeah. This is nice and moody. Rats running out from the darkness, tentacles in the water. This is really, really lovely. And I think these tentacles will be available from your preferred zoo sometimes in the near future, if I'm not mistaken. So I hope you enjoyed the session. I hope you enjoyed seeing me draw a little bit of a fun little sewer event. And I hope you learned something from it. So I think I'm just gonna say thank you for watching. It's been nice seeing you, and next week you'll be back to your regular scheduled Ralph, I think. And I have no idea what he's going to do then, but we'll all find out. Have a nice evening, everyone.